Begin today the Gemara at the Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Peivav Amid Beis. Zok Teilige Mishnah. Shnayim shesholchu shnei Gittin shoven. Two people sent the exact same get with the same names. The husband and wife both have the same name, and is sending it with one shliach to deliver it to their wives. V'nisarvu. And both of these Gittin now got mixed up. So what do? So noisin shneim lezu shneim lezu. So you're going to give both Gittin, the nesina of the get of both of them will be to both of these women. It's like this, you covered, you know that you gave each one the right get. So lefichach, therefore, since you have to give both to both of these women, avad echad mehen, if one of these Gittin got lost, so harei hasheni bottle. The second get, you can't do anything with it, you don't know whose get it is. Chamisha shekosvu klal b'toich haget. 5 individuals that are divorcing their wife write one general get to include all of their names in this one get. Ish pleni megarish plenis, and then upleni plenis. All the names are written in the same get. Va'edim ulmata, and you have edim signed at the bottom of this get. Kulan keshedin. All of these, for the get is going to be kosher for all of these people. V'yunasin l'chalachas v'achas. You can use this get and reuse it, give it to one and then give it to another. You can. It's good, it's kosher for all of them. Some achreinim add though, that the only way you can reuse this get, once you give it to the wife of the first husband, so now the get belongs to her. Saka, the second husband, one of the basic halachas of a get is that the get has to belong to the husband. But you're going to have to give it to the first wife with a matana al-manas lahachzer, and then you give it to the second husband, and like that you continue to all 5. However, says the Mishnah, if there's a separate nusach of the get for each one of them, and the Gemara will bring 2 opinions exactly what this means, but there's it's all in one document, but there's it's separated. Each one of them, the names are written sort of separately with a separate text. And the Edim sign, one set of Edim are signed below all of these nuschais that you have in one get. So Esha Edim Nikrin Imoy Kosher. The last typhus of the get that has the last names, and that's where the Edom are signed on, that's the one that's kosher. But all the other names that are written further up, above in the get, they're all going to be puzzle. So the Gemara again.
What's the difference between this case and the first case?
Let's see, the Gemara is going to explain. There's a machlokes, Rabbi Yechon and Reish Lakish. We'll see, the Gemara explains it clearly. So the Gemara, man Tana. Who is the Tana of the Reisha of our Mishnah that says that when you have a suffix whose get this is, so you just give both Gittin to both wives here. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, the loy Rabbi Lazar, the Tana of our Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Lazar's opinion. Why? The Rabbi Lazar, because if we would follow Rabbi Lazar's opinion, Kiv in the Omar Eidem Isira Karti, Rabbi Lazar says that who are the main Eidem that make this get a get, that you could use it for a Gedishin. It has to be Dafka the Edim that witnessed the Mesira, the giving of the get. If so, the problem is Halayadi Bahai Minayu Kamagarsha. When these Edim are watching the Nesina of the get, they don't know which get is the one that's actually the divorce. When they're looking at the first Nesina, maybe it is a divorce, maybe not, and the same thing with the second. Now, what's the problem with that? Simply, you would just ask, so what? But when they saw both, they witnessed the fact that it definitely was a Gedishin. True, but Rashi says the issue is the Lishma. According to Rabbi Eliezer, or Rabbi Lazar rather, the halacha of Lishma applies to the Nesina. And therefore, Lishma is not something that could be B'derech Safik. Lishma has to be Mavurer. You have to know that the Nesina was 100% Lishma. When you're giving the first get, you can't have a kavana that this is l'shem gedishin. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just l'shem matana because it's not her get. And the same thing with the second nesina. So in order for it to qualify as a nesina l'shma, it has to be a definite. So if the halacha of the l'shma is regarding the nesina, it comes out that the eidem isira witnessing a giving of a get that's not necessarily l'shma. Now let me clarify another point here that Rashi explains. The Rishayim here explain why is this dafka according to Rabbi Lazar. Doesn't Rabbi Meir agree that the Nesina of the get has to be Lishma? The answer is no. This is, according to our Gemara here, that the way the Gemara is thinking about this now, this is another machlokes that comes out from Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Meir's opinion that we had throughout the Masechta. With the source of their machlokes comes from what it says in the pasuk, "V'kosav law sefer krisis." That's the source of Lishma, V'kosav law, that you're writing it for her sake. Now the question is, what does V'kosav mean? Rabbi Meir says V'kosav does not mean the writing of the get. V'kosav means the signatures. It's as if the Torah wrote V'chosam. And therefore, Rav Meir says every get must have signatures. So V'kosav means the signatures. So the Lishma goes on the signatures. That's it. So the signatures have to be Lishma, but the Nesina does not have to be Lishma. Mashen Kain Rabbi Elazar says V'kosav means the writing of the get. And therefore now the Gemara is thinking that if a kosav means the writing the get, before there's any edim, just writing has no validity. You have nothing of Gedishin yet. So therefore, the Lishma must be going on the Nesina, or at least also the Nesina, if even the Ksiva, but it must be going on the Nesina also. You read the pasuk, the kosav law sefer krisis v'nosan, the law goes on the v'nosan, because according to Rabbi Elazar, that's where the main kashrus of the get happens. Just like according to Rabbi Meir, the main kashrus of the get happens when you sign it. According to Rabbi Elazar, the main kashrus of the get happens when you give it in the presence of Eidem Mesirah. So just like Rabbi Meir holds that the main Lishma applies to the Chasimah, Rabbi Elazar holds that the Lishma applies to the Mesirah when you give the get. And therefore, over here, in the Mishnah, according to Rabbi Meir, the main thing is that the get was signed Lishma, and it was. The Nesina does not have to be Lishma. Shenken Rabbi Elazar holds that the Nesina has to be a mavuredig Nesina, a clear Nesina of Lishma. Otherwise, the get is possible. But now the Gemara says, Lav Dafke. Abaya disagrees with Rabbi Yirmiyah. Afilatayme Rabbi Elazar. I can tell you our Mishnah follows even Rabbi Elazar's opinion. Eimeh Rabbi Elazar ksiva Lishma. Even according to Rabbi Elazar, since you read the pasuk v'kosav law, that v'kosav means the ksiva, so then the law goes just on the v'kosav, that the ksiva has to be lishma, the writing. Nisina lishma mibai. However, this understanding of Rabbi Yirmiyah, that because the ksiva is not yet a significant part of the get, and it only becomes kosher by the nesina when there's edim there, and therefore that has to be lishma, that was Rabbi Yirmiyah's chiddush. But Abai doesn't hold to this. Abai says that the lishma, according to Rabbi Elazar, goes only on the ksiva. So the machlokes of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar is whether the lishma goes on the ksiva or on the chsime. But nobody holds that the nesina of the get has to be lishma. Okay, now we come to the sefer of the Mishnah, which discusses 5 people that want to chip in to use the same get. 5 people are using the same get, and then the Mishnah said it will depend if they're all written together or they're all written in a text for themselves, in a typhus for themselves. What does this mean? Heichi dami klal. What does the Mishnah mean to say when all 5 are written together and then it's going to be kosher? And heichi dami typhus. What does it mean that they're all being written with their own text that separates them, and therefore you can't use the signatures at the bottom of the get for all of them? You can only use it for the bottom ones that are written near the signatures. Rabbi Yechanan says, Rabbi Yechanan zman echad lekulon. If there's one date that you're writing for all of them, zeo klal, that means that they're all included in one. Meaning, how does every get start? Every get starts with Birishayim b'Shabbos. As you start with the first day of Shabbos, and then you go on to say all the details, the names and everything. So if it was written with one date and one nusach basically, and then when you write in the names, so you wrote in all the names, Birishayim b'Shabbos, so and so and so and so, all 5 names you wrote are coming to divorce. So because there's basically one nusach to the whole get, you just are writing in all the names, so then that's klal, that's one get where the signature goes on everything. But zman l'chol echad ve'echad, but if you have a separate date for each one of the names that you're writing, and it sounds like what the Gemara is saying is, this is what I understood from some of the Mefarshim here, that you're basically rewriting the entire nusach of the get, but it's all being written on one paper. You're saying, Berishim b'Shabbos, so-and-so divorces his wife, with the whole nusach. Then again, Berishim b'Shabbos, so-and-so divorces his wife, with the whole nusach of the get. So you have basically 5 nuschos over here on this whole get, and then at the bottom you have the signatures. Zeo teifis, that's what means that you have a teifis, meaning you have a separate text for each one of the Gittin here written on this paper. That's Rabbi Yechanan. Shlakish Amar, Shlakish says no, it works differently. Afil is man echad lekulan. Even if you have just one date for all the Gittin, yeah, so there's basically just one nusach for all the Gittin, and then you're just adding in all the names, Pliny and Plainis, and again Pliny and Plainis. So they're all included in one nusach. Nevertheless, nami avatayfis. This is still considered to be that the text for each one of the people being divorced here is divided, because you're spelling out each one of the names separately. What's considered to be klal? The kosav onu. You have to, if it's written in a plural term, onu, pliny, upliny, girashnu, nishisenu. If their names are written but it's written though with this lashon of a plural term, us, so and so and so and so, are divorcing our wife, so and so and so. So because you're writing a plural term, that's when I say that it's considered to be klal, that it's all included into one get. So again, according to the Shlakish, both cases of the Mishnah are cases where you just basically have one nusach of a get with one date. The only question is it written with a lashon yachid for each one separately that's divorcing, or is it written with a plural term which includes them all as one? Okay, so the Gemara is going to go through both of these opinions. Maskef la Rabba Rabbi Yechanan. Rabba asked on Rabbi Yechanan's opinion. The Amaz man echad l'kul on Rabbi Yechanan said as long as you have one date for all of the names written in the get, zel klal. That's considered to be a klal, even though then you're specifying each one of the names separately afterwards. But nevertheless, it's one zman, so it's considered to be one thing. But in Svara L'chayre, it's hard to say that the Eidim sign at the bottom is going on all these names. Leichish, we should still be concerned, Dilmiki, Chasmi Sadi, Abasru Dechsimi, that when the Eidim signed the get, because the names are all written in a singular term separately, so maybe the signatures at the bottom is only going on the last signatures of the get. Basically, well, like the opinion of Rish Lakish, that as long as the names are written separately, the Chsima goes on the last names. And the Gemara brings a source for this question. Milei Tanya, didn't we learn in a Braisa that says, Eidim Chsumin, if you have Eidim that sign on a get, but al she'ilas shalom beget. Now the person wrote a get, but then at the bottom of the get, he writes on it, say hello to so and so. So you have the whole get, but then it's shila shalom. He's asking, or he's giving regards, or saying hello to someone in the get. So puzzle. So the Eidim sign below that line, it's puzzle. Why? Chashinon shem al shila shalom chasmu, because that's the last line. So maybe that's what the signature is going on. That we confirm that so and so wants to know how you're doing. That's it. Not going on the whole get. So over here as well, maybe the signature goes just on the last names. And says the Gemara, no, there's no question from there, because la vitmer Allah, didn't we learn about that Braisa? Rabbi Vo said, L'didim mefarsh liminei, the Rabbi Yechanan himself explained to me as follows. That shalu, puzzle. If you write this last line in the get, shalu, say hello to so and so then it'll be puzzle. But vishalu, if you write it with a vav, you're writing the whole get, and then you're sort of adding another point with a vav, so it's clear that you're not just writing that as a main point for itself. So then kasha, then the signatures are kasha, because then the signatures does go back on the entire get. So Hachanami, here as well, Rabbi Yechanan says you wrote each one of the names separately. The Chsiv Bey, what's written in the get is Ploini, Uploini, Uploini. It's written all with a vav, and therefore, even though there's only one nusach of the get, there is one nusach of the get, that is, but even though you have each name spelled out separately in a singular term, but because it says a vav, so it's all connected, and the signatures at the bottom go on all the names. That's, yeah, if it's coming from Chutz La'aretz, but it's a different point. That is, yeah, of course.
Wait a minute, so
if it's coming from Medina Sayyam,
so
yeah.
When the Eidim say that they don't know what they did they ask the Eidim what they signed?
What's if the Eidim are not here? What's if the Eidim are not here? So you don't know what they signed on, right?
The Eidim Mesira are not the Eidim that's...
no, not necessarily. You need Eidim Mesira. That's a very good point. If the case over here is that you have Eidim Mesira, then this whole Mishnah doesn't begin. We're talking over here about a case that you only have Eidim Chsime, and now we don't know what these Eidim Chsime signed on. These Eidim Chsime are not here. They signed the get. We just see the signatures, and now we have to assume on our own what they signed on. V'sul, now the Gemara asks another question according to Rabbi Yechanan. If you have just one date, one nusach where the get begins with, and it goes on all the names, Zehu, Taifis. Again, sorry, let me read that again. If you have a separate zman where you wrote the nusach of the get, B'Rishayim b'Shabbos, and then Pliny is divorcing Plinius, then you have the nusach of the get again. B'Rishon b'Shabbos, Pliny is divorcing Plinius. So that's what's called Taifis. That's what our Mishnah says, that since you have separately for each one, so the signatures in the bottom go only on the bottom one. So my area, if that's the case, there's a separate zman for each one. So then my area mishum Taifis. Why is the Mishnah saying that the issue is that the signature could be going only on the bottom one? Because that's what it's right above it. So, but not necessarily did they sign on other things in the get. But there's another problem here. Why shouldn't there be the problem? The date of the signature is not the same as the date of the other dates that are written at the get. So right now the Gemara is assuming that when it says here that you have 5 different times that it says in the date in the get, that the dates are not necessarily the same. Different people came to use the very same document to divorce their wife, and each one is writing a different date. So when the Eidim are signing in the bottom, so the signatures of the Eidim will go on the actual date when the Eidim sign on the bottom. But all the other Gittin that were written above it, which have earlier dates, how could the Eidim go on that? That's what we learned earlier in the Masechta. The signatures cannot be on a different date when the get was written. So that should be the problem. Amalei Markshisha Bered Rav Chisda Ravashi Hachayama Achi Amrina Mishmeid Rav Yechanan. Rav Yechanan answered, the case over here is it's all the same date that is. Tichsiv Buhu B'chad B'Shabbat B'chad B'Shabbat. All the different nuschayos and dates of the get are all written with the same date. So that's not the issue. The only issue is that the signatures at the bottom are only on what's right above it, not the other nuschayos of the get that's higher up. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So now Ravina said to Ravashi, and he asked on Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish the Amar. Rish Lakish said, Zman echad lekulon, that if there's one nusach of a get, but nami toifisave, but nevertheless, since you're writing in a singular term, you're spelling out the names of each of the people that are being divorced separately, that's considered to be that this is a separate name, separate text for each one of them, and therefore the signatures at the bottom can't go on everything. And what's considered to be a klal, that it's all included in one, that the Mishnah says that the signatures goes on everything. You write a plural term, onu pleni upleni girashtu nishasenu plenis uplenis. So because it's written all together in a plural term, then I say it's all included as one. But now the question, Rish Lakish, is if you write in such a plural term, nimtzu shtei noshim is garshois beget echad. So you're having two women being divorced by their husbands in one get. And the problem is, the lashon of the pasuk is, v'kosav lo, you write a get for her, for your wife, v'loy lo v'lechaverta. You can't write a get with a plural term that includes a few together. So how could this b'chlal be kosher? Adarab, writing it all in a plural term makes it even worse. Answers the Gemara, you're right, we're going to have to say, the hodda kosav, after he wrote in the beginning, the get with a plural term, everyone together, but then he repeats again and writes, Pleini Giddish Pleinis, or Pleini Giddish Pleinis. He is writing in a singular term, each one separately, that they're divorcing their wives. So basically what Rish Lakish is being mechadish here is, even though once you write a singular term, that should be a problem, because each one is separate, and you might say that the chesimis only go on the bottom one, but since he started off, since in the beginning you did write a plural term including everyone together, that's enough to clarify that the signatures at the bottom do not go just on one, but it goes on all of them together.
How did you ask me the question?
Because he did specify afterwards.
One get for 5 people.
No, but the very fact that problem of one get for 5 people is only if you just wrote a plural term of everyone together, v'zehu. Then it's one get for 5 people. But then if you specify after, you have both on the same get. First you have a general get, that's a plural term including everyone together, and you need that in order to clarify that the signatures at the bottom is including everyone, but then you need it again to be specified at the bottom, each one separately, in order that it should be a separate get. So you have basically both in one get, and that's where therefore it's kosher. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So Ravina now asks Ravashi. So we just explained by a get that you must have specified each one separately for them to be divorced. Otherwise, it's like a communal get. It doesn't work. But if so, what's different from this that we learned in a brisa regarding the shtar shichrer of an eved? And the brisa says, a person owns 2 slaves, and he writes all of his properties, which includes them themselves, he's giving it all away to them. So what happened? They both now, in partnership, acquire everything, including themselves. So kanu, they acquire everything. So now each one of these 2 avadim are partners. Each one owns partially themselves and partially the other eved. So they acquire themselves, they could acquire themselves and now free one another. But the question is, it's mashma here in this brayso that we're using one shtar shichrer that the master wrote to both of them together, that I'm giving everything away to both of you together, in a plural term together. But the klal is, as we had many times in the Masech, the law, we learn out of Gzeri Shava that all the halachas of a get apply to shtar shichra. We just said by a get of a isha, it has to be 2 separate gittin. How over here are we using one shtar to free both of these avadim? So one answer is that's not the case there. Didn't we already say that? What's that brayso talking about? B'shnei shtaris, that the master gave 2 shtaris for both of these avadim. Now the case over here must be that he gave both of these shtaris to both of them at the very same time. So therefore, there's a suffix who the master is giving away all of his possessions to. If he gave to one before the other, then one was kain and the other one gets nothing. But if he gave it both at the same time, so because now we don't know who's giving it to, so therefore they both acquire and will free each other. We learned in the brayso like Rabbi Yechanan, and Tanya Kvaseder Rish Lakish. In another brayso we learned like Rish Lakish. Tanya Kvaseder Rabbi Yechanan, we learned in the brayso clearly like Rabbi Yechanan. So the brayso says, Chamisha shakosvu the toicha get 5 right into 1 get. Ish plainim v'garish plainis, uplaini plainis, uplaini plainis. Zman echad lekulon. So it specified each one of the names separately in a singular term, but there's one nusach, there's one date for all of them. Va'edim Lamata, and the Edim sign below this. So Kulan Kshedim, it will be kosher for all of them. V'tinosein l'chol achas v'achas. And the get could be given to each one of these wives. Exactly like Rabbi Yochanan said. As long as there's one Zman, that is enough, that it should be a good get. It's that the signatures goes on everything. However, Zman l'chol echad v'echad. If there's a separate Zman for each one of them, ve'edim Lamata, and the Edim are below, so then I say, Es she'edim nekra mimoy kosher. Only the bottom line, where the Edim are being read together with them, so then that's going to be kosher. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says that even in this case, where you have all of them that are together, Let's see. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, Im yesh revach beineim. If there's space, between the last nusach of the get and where the signatures are, so then pasul. Then it's going to be pasul. Or actually, the beineim here means between each one of the nuschais of the get. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira is going on the case that we just said, where he did write a separate zman for all of them. Right, so what did the Tanakhama say? The moment you write a separate zman for all of them, so then the signatures at the bottom cannot go on all of them. It goes on only the bottom one. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, when you write a nusach for each one of them, when do I say that the signatures at the bottom only goes on the bottom one? If there is a space, a line of empty space between each one of the nuschais. But vimlav, if there's no space between them, they're all written true, separate nuschais, but it's written in one long succession without a space, then kosher. Then it will be kosher. She'ein zman mafsikin. Even though there was a separate nusach, a separate date for each one of the gittin that you wrote here, but nevertheless, if there's no hefsik, if there's no actual space, it's going to be kosher. Now, Tanya Kval say the Rish Lakish. We learned also in a brayse that says clearly like Rish Lakish. Chamisha shekosvu klal b'toich get. 5 people that write a klal, they're all included in the same get. Now, what does mean klal b'toich get? So here it says exactly like Rish Lakish, that it has to be dafka a plural term. Anu, ploini, gerashna, shesena, ploinis, ploini, girish, ploini, girish, ploinis, uzman echad lekulan. And there's one date for everyone, and it's written in this plural term. The Edim Lamata and the Edim assigned below them, kulam kshedim. They're all going to be kosher. V'tinosein l'chol achas v'achas, the get could be used for all of them. Now, Zman, l'chol echad ve'echad, but now the Brisa jumps to the case and says, what if you have a separate nusach of the Zman for each one of the names? V'revach l'chol echad ve'echad. Now, the Tanakhama says, not only do you have a separate date, but besides that, there's also a space between what each one of the nischais that you wrote here, ve'edim l'mata and the edim sign below. So then I say, esh edim nekra mimah kosher. Only the bottom one, which the edim are read to write with it, that's the one that's going to be kosher. Now, Rab Meir says, afal pi she'ein revach b'neihem, even if there's no space between them, pasul. It's still going to be pasul, shahazman mafsikan. Because the zman itself, the fact that there's a separate nusach for each one of them, that means that the signature only goes on the bottom one. So Rab Meir is like the Tanakhama of the previous Braisa, and the Tanakhama in this Braisa is Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira of the previous Braisa. Okay, but now the Gemara asks, when this Braisa wants to tell you that there's a problem, that the signatures only goes on the bottom nusach of the get, why does the Brisa jump to the case where he wrote a separate zman for each one of them? Now, Rish Lakish, according to Rish Lakish, why is the Brisa jumping to this case to say that when you have a separate date for each one of them, so that's when the signatures will only be on the bottom one? Omar zman echad l'kulon, but didn't Rish Lakish say that even if you have one date for all of them, nami toifis have, it's also considered to be that it's like a separate text for each one of them, as long as the names were written separately without a plural term of onu. So why is it only saying that in this Brisa that if you wrote a separate zman, then it's separate? And says the Gemara, you're right, but hani mili, what the Brisa is saying over here is heiche deloi arvinu meikara. If in the beginning he didn't write that plural term, so then if he writes each name separately in a singular term, even if it's with one zman, with one nusach, so then, according to Rish Lakish, that's still going to be a problem. The signatures at the bottom only goes at the bottom ones that were written there. What this Brisa is coming to say is, the arvinu meikara, even in a case where he does write onu in the beginning, But nevertheless, zman in iloiloi. So over here, you can make this distinction that even if you wrote a plural term, so as we learned before in the Amud, after you write a plural term in the beginning, you must then specify their names afterwards. But here the Braisa is saying, but if you're going to write a separate zman for each one afterwards, even though you did write a plural term in the beginning, it's going to be possible. But if you didn't write the zman for each one separately, so the plural term in the beginning is going to make the get kosher for all of them. The signatures is going to go on all of them. Okay. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Shnei Gittin. What if a person is writing two Gittin? Again, we're talking about people over here that are trying to save money. So they're writing the Gittin on one document. Shnei Gittin shekosvan zeh b'tzad zeh. These two Gittin are written on the same document, and they're one beside the other. You see over here in the Rashi, you see it's with two columns on the same get. Now the thing is, the main discussion is regarding the signatures. Shnayim edim ivrim boy mitachazeh letachazeh. Now you have two edim that are signing as edim ivrim, one below the other. What does this mean? The way the signatures are in Lashon HaKodesh is, let's say a person writes Yosef ben Shimon, so Yosef is his own name, and Shimon is his father's name. So the way the get was signed is, you're writing Yosef ben Shimon, the name Yosef was written below the first column, the right column. And then Shimon was written below the left column. And the same thing, the next aid that's signing in Ivri. Ivri is you're writing from right to left, and your own name comes before your father's name. So it comes out that the actual names of the Eidim are only below the get on the right column. The names that there are from the Eidim below the left column, it's not their own names, it's their father's name that's below the left column. So that's a problem, because it's only their father's name that's below that column. So that's those two signatures. But then there's another two signatures here on this get, which are signed in a different style. Ushnayim Eidim Yuvanim, and then below them you have two Eidim of Yidden that are signing the way the style of signature was in Yavan. They come from Yavan, so they sign in their style. Now what's the style of the signatures in Yavan? So Rashi's pshat is that they're also signing a Lashon Kodesh. The only difference is that the way the Yavanim would sign was, for example, if it says Yosef ben Shimon, Yosef is not your name. Yosef is your father's name. Ben Shimon means Yosef has a son, and his son's name is Shimon. It's like Yosef, it's one of some of the Rishonim actually say b'feidish that the way they would sign it is Yosef benoi Shimon, and his son is Shimon. So now it comes out that it's really the exact opposite. That when the Yevonim sign this get with the right and the left column, so below the right column, you don't have the name of any of the Eidim, you just have the name of his father. And below the left column, Shimon, that's his name. So their names is only in the bottom of the left column. Says the Mishnah. Again, so you have Shnayim Eidim Yevonim Boim Mitachazel, Tachazel, they're also signed both below. So as Sheidim Arishaynim Nikra Mimai. So the halach here is that the ones that the first Eidim are read with that get, which is the get on the right column. The get on the right column has the two first signatures that were signed the way we sign in Lashon Kodesh, where you write your name first, so kosher. That column, the right column, is going to be kosher. But the left column does not have the names of these Eidim of Lashon Kodesh. It only has the names of their father. So that's going to be possible. The question is, but doesn't it have their names of the other Eidim, of the Eidim that are signing in the Yevonim style, below the left column? So why shouldn't the one on the left column be kosher with the signatures from the Eidim of the Yevonim that their names is on that column? So that's the Gemara will answer. The Gemara will explain what the Mishnah is talking about. This is Rashi's pshat, but let me just quickly mention the Rambam's pshat in here. The Rambam's pshat is what you would think more simply, the way it is today, that in Lashon Kodesh you write from right to left, and in English or in Yevoni you write from left to right. So it comes out that the Eidim that are signing a Lashon Kodesh, their names is under the right column, and if you're signing from left to right, so you're writing your name first, but your name is going to be on the left column below the left. Right? It's the same concept as Rashi. Rashi says that both in Lashon Kodesh and Yevoni they write from right to left, but the only difference is in Lashon Kodesh you write your name first, and in Yevoni their custom was that they wrote their father's name first and then their own name.
It's speaking about one get over here. There's two Eidim that sign with Derech Ivri and two Eidim that sign with Derech Yevoni.
Correct.
No.
Yeah. So there's four Eidim altogether. There's four Eidim altogether on this get. Correct. Huh? You don't need, but it's telling you that even if you have all these four, you might think that both columns should be kosher for this. So it says no, only the one on the right column will be kosher. Weiter sagt der Mishnah, Eid echad ivri, ve'eid echad yavani. What's if the get is signed, first one aid is signing the way you sign in ivri, and then comes below him the aid that's signing yavani. And then the aid echad ivri, then one aid which signs ivri, and the aid echad yavani. Then comes an aid which is signing yavani. Boin mitachazeh letachazeh, one below the other. Then shneim psulim. Both of the columns are going to be puzzle. So when you learn the Mishnah in the simple pshat, it's very hard to understand why should it be puzzle. So it's hard to explain this without a picture, but there's different pshatim in this. Rashi's pshat in this is what the Mishnah means to say that the top aid, the aid echad ivri, is signing the way a person signs. Reuven ben Yaakov, or let's say, before we use the example of Yosef ben Shimon. So he signed his name first Yosef on below the right column, and then below the left column he signed Ben Shimon. But now when the Yavani came to sign, the Yavani did not start his signature below the right column. He started his signature where the first aid ended, which is below the left column. Below the left column, right below the first signature, there in the left column, he wrote his name Yosef, and then he moved back to the right column to write Ben Shimon. Okay, and like this, all the signatures that the Mishnah here in this case is speaking about work in the same way. So now that the Yavani that signed after the Ivri started his signature below the left column, and he wrote Ben Shimon under the right column. So then what happens? The Ivri that's signing after him begins his signature on the left column and finishes his signature on the He starts his signature on the
finishes on the right.
No, but he started his signature. No, but that doesn't work that way though. That's how Rashi teaches over here. The top aid wrote Yosef ben Shimon regular, right from right to left, plain. Okay, it's now the aid Yavani started his signature on the left and went back to the right, and then after him the Ivri started his signature on the left and went back to the right, and then the bottom signature of the Yavani, he's the last one, he writes Yosef ben Shimon, also starting on the right, going to the left. That's the case over here. I'll put up a picture afterwards so you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, so it should be clear. But this is Rashi's pshat the way it is. So they're not signing properly in succession one after the other. Okay. Why are they skipping and writing this way? I don't know. One is following the other. Kasha famaisa, whatever. Yeah. So in this case, the Mishnah says shneim psulim. They're both going to be kosher. So puzzle, that is. So it's not 100% clear why both are puzzle, because l'chayre it should come out that you have two signatures. You have one signature of the Ivri and one signature of the Yavani on each column. That's how it would come out if you follow the way they sign. So l'chayre both should be kosher. But nevertheless, the Gemara will explain that why it's possible. We'll see in the Gemara. The Gemara will explain why it's kosher. Okay, well, the Gemara starts off with the first case of the Mishnah. Frag the Gemara, why in the first case? Let's discuss the very first signature. Signed on the get. Here, the Gemara actually gives a different example than what I gave, Yosef ben Shimon. So the Gemara goes with the example of Reuven ben Yaakov. So he signed the get, Reuven ben Yaakov. The name Reuven is below the right column, and Yaakov is below the left column. Frag the Gemara, so why can't we consider it to be a signature for the right and a signature for the left? Let the first column, the get on the right column be kosher with the signature of Reuven, and the signature with the second column be kosher with Ben Yaakov. It says Ben Yaakov in the second column, 8, Ben Yaakov 8. That should be a good enough signature in itself. In other words, the Gemara is basically asking, let us consider it as if this aid, not as if this aid is basically signing twice. He's once signing his name Reuven, and the second time he's signing his name Ben Yaakov 8. Now, are you going to say, who says you can sign just by writing who the son you are of? Maybe you have to sign your own name. So Gemara says, Datnan. We learned here later in the Mishnah, Ben Ish Plani Aid, kosher. If you sign your name as, I'm the son of so-and-so, Aid, it will be kosher. Answers the Gemara, the reason why here it doesn't work is because the Kosev Reuven Ben Akama. He writes his name Reuven, including the Ben below the right column. And then the Yaakov Eid Abasra. But then he writes Yaakov Eid below the second column. So Yaakov Eid is not good enough. Yaakov Eid is his father. Fragt the Gemara, but nevertheless, the get might still be kosher in the following way. Hi, Beruven Ben, the get should be kosher with the Reuven ben on the first column, and Vilis kasher hai be Yaakov Eid, and then the second get should be kosher with Yaakov Eid. Now what the Gemara means to ask is, if this Eid is signing the way you sign in Ivri, that you write your name first and then your father's name first, then this is not going to work. But what the Gemara means to ask is, maybe this person is signing the way the Yevanim sign. So when he wrote Reuven ben under the first column, what he's saying is, I'm the son of Reuven. Reuven, the Yevanim write first the name of the father. So Reuven ben means I'm the son of Reuven. And then when he wrote Yaakov Eid on the second one, that's his name, Yaakov Eid. So then it could be kosher with both. And here the Gemara brings a source for this, that a person that writes his name without who he is, doesn't write his father's name, which is really identifying who he is. He just writes Yaakov, that alone is good. We learned in the Mishnah later as well. Ish pleni Eid kosher. If you just write your name and you write Eid, it'll be kosher without writing your father's name. So maybe the get could be kosher here as well for this. Answers the Gemara, the case is the lekos of Eid. He didn't add the word Eid. This is an integral thing. If you're writing your name and not any other identification, you have to write at least the word Eid. If you didn't write Eid, it won't be kosher. Or another simple answer here is Lo'ilam the of Eid. He wrote Reuven ben under the first column and Yaakov Eid under the second column. Why isn't it kosher for both? Because the Adinim Baha Chsime the Lav the Yaakovu, because we know for a fact that he's not signing as a Yevani. He's not signing because he is Yaakov. This is Reuven signing. So when he writes Reuven ben Yaakov, Reuven is his name. He's signing it B'lashon Ivri. So therefore, writing just the name Yaakov Eid on the second column, it's not him. So it's his father's name. So therefore, the signature on the second column is nothing. Frag the Gemara, but still you can argue that maybe the writing a signature on a get just using your father's name, maybe that is a signature. V'dilme b'shma da'avua chasim. Sometimes a person, when he signs, doesn't necessarily sign his own name. Maybe he's using his father's name as a signature. When he writes Yaakov Eid, we know Reuven wrote this, but maybe he's using his father's name as a signature. Says the Gemara, no. If a person's signing, he's not going to drop his own name and sign with his father's name. Why would he sign with his father's name and drop his own name? But the Gemara still presses on and asks, maybe yes. V'dilme simone shavye. Maybe it's not that he's dropping his own name for his father's name. This is sort of a certain siman that he's using, a certain sign that he's using without using his name. And the Gemara here brings different amiraim, we had this before, that wouldn't sign by their name. They would use all kinds of symbols for their signature. The Harav Tzaya Kavra. Rav would just make a fish, a symbol. Rav Chanina Charusa. Rav Chanina, a palm branch, was a symbol. Rav Chizde Samach. Rav Aishia Ayin. Rav Baravhone Tzayer Makusa. He made a picture of a mast, of a ship. So we see that you can use all kinds of symbols. So maybe when he writes Yaakov under the second column, maybe that's just some kind of a symbol for himself. Answers the Gemara, no, we don't say such a thing. That's a chutzpah to go and take your father's name. It's not you, and you're using your father's name as a symbol for things, for documents that you sign. That's a chutzpah, and a person doesn't do such a thing. Okay. So this is all regarding the first signature. Now the Gemara comes back to the main din that the Mishnah here said, that you have altogether 4 signatures here. And you have 2 of the Ivrim, that their names are below the right column, and the 2 signatures below that that was signed in the style of the Yevanim, their names are below the left column. So now the Gemara asks, Vilis kasher, hai b'shnei edim. The first column, the right column, should be kosher with the 2 edim that are signing in the Ivri style. If b'shnei edim Ivrim, Vilis kasher, hai b'shnei edim Yevanim. And the left column should be kosher with the next 2 edim, which are signing like the Yevanim. So they write their father's name first, and they're writing their own name second, which comes below the left column. Why is that a problem? The Gemara here says, we learned later in the Mishnah, get kosvei ivris, a get that was written in the Ivris style. The names in the get, it's all written in the Ivris style. And the Eid of Yevanis, but then the way the Eidim sign, they're signing it in the Yevanis style. Or the reverse, Yevanis, the get itself was written in a Yevanis style. The Eid of Ivris, and the Eidim are signing in the Ivris style, kosher. It's okay, it's all kosher. So over here as well, you can use both of these sets of Eidim to be machsher, the right and the left column.
What's that Yevanis?
Again? Yeah. Yevanim again means it's signed in Lashon Kodesh, according to Rashi. Again?
Not the sign, the get.
The get is written by Lashon Yevanis. It probably means that when you write the names of the husband and wife in the get, it was written, those names were written in the Yevanis style. Now, if you'll argue and say that you can't use the second set of Eidim that are signed on this get, Why? Kiven du muflig b'shnei shitten, because their signatures is separate from the whole text of the get. There are the other two signatures of two lines that separate their signatures from the text. So that's not good. Says the Gemara, but that's not a problem. Because Chizkiah said that there's only a problem if there's empty space. But if that space is not empty, it's filled in with other signatures, even of relatives. But it's not empty space. And then below that, you have kosher signatures. Kosher. So then it's not empty space, and it'll be kosher. So over here as well, you have the two Eidim Ivri, two Eidim Yevani. There's no empty space. So you have signatures for the right column and the left column. Says the Gemara, you're right. Really, this should be the halacha. Hatani ziri takatot, shneim ksherim. That you have the signatures for the right and the left. It's all kosher. The Tana Didan, the Tana of our Mishnah, Dilme, perhaps what happened is Gundalis Chosim. That those Eidim that are signing Yuvanis, they signed not the way they usually sign. Gundalis, Rashi here means when you do something that's unusual. Rashi here brings that Gundalis is also a term that's used for a person that's left-handed, meaning that he uses the hand that people don't usually use. So over here as well, the Eidim that sign in the Yevani style, usually the Eidim that sign in the Yevani style put their own names second. Then it would come out that it would be perfect. You have the Ivri names below the right column, and the Yevani names, the Yevani signatures have their names below the left column. But here, it could be, in the Mishnah, the case over here is not Dilman. Well, the Gemara says Dilman, Gundalis Chasim, the Mishnah, we don't know exactly what happened, and therefore it could be that the ones that are signing usually in the Yevani style switched. They just decided we're going to copy what the signatures above us did, and they wrote their own names first on the right column. So it comes out that the names of the actual Eidim themselves are all below the right column. The Kulu Achad Hu the Chasimi. So it comes out that they all signed below the first column. Okay, then the last case of the Mishnah was Eid Echad Ivri ve'Eid Echad Yevani. So then it's not going to be kosher. So again, the Gemara asks a similar question. Shouldn't it come out that you have two signatures for each column? So the Mishnah said it's all possible. Why is it all possible? It would come out that you have one Eid Ivri, his name is below the one column, the right column, and also there's a name of Eid Echad Yevani on his column, and V'hai Be'eid Echad Ivri Ve'eid Echad Yevani. And then you have on the left column also the name of one signature of Ivri and Yevani on the second column. So you have 2 for 2. So it's perfect. You have for both columns. If you make the cheshbon the way I said it before, the way Rashi makes the picture here, the way it is, and this is how it comes out. The Hatnan, again, the Gemara brings here a source that these two Eidim that sign do not have to sign in the same style. The Mishnah says, Eid Echad Ivri, Ve'eid Echad Yevani. One Eid is signing in the Ivri style, another Eid is signing in the Yevani style, putting his father's name before his, kosher. So why over here can't you have both columns kosher with 1-1 and 1-1? Answers the Gemara, Hatani Ziri, over here as well, Ziri Taka said, Shneim Ksherim. That it's right, in such a case, both would Taka be kosher. But Vitane Didan, the Tana of our Mishnah, Dilma Gundalis Chasim, it's possible that the Eid that's a Yevani, one of the Eid that's a Yevani at least, signed in an unusual fashion. And therefore, it's going to come out, Utlasa, Achad, you're going to have 3 signatures on one column, V'chad, Achad, and you're going to have only one signature on one column. If the signatures are, the way I described it before, you have the top signature, Yosef ben Shimon. So it comes out that on the top column, you have his signature of Yosef. And then the Yevani started signing his name already on the left column. He started off where the first 8 finished. So he wrote his name, Yosef, on the left column. And then he wrote Ben Shimon. So now usually when a Yevani writes Ben Shimon, Shimon is his name. So then his name Shimon would be below the right column. So now it should come out that you should have below the right column 2 names. And then the same thing would continue also with the next 2 signatures. But what if the Yevani, when he signed his signature, decided to copy the style of the signature of the Eid Ivri? So when he writes Yosef ben Shimon, starting the name Yosef on the left column and then writing Ben Shimon below the right column, so you don't have his signature on the right column. You only have Ben Shimon, which is not his name, it's his father's name. It's going to end up coming out that you're going to have 1 signature on one column and 3 signatures on the left column. So therefore, it's not it's not going to be kosher. Again, you're going to have tlasa achad, v'chad achad. So therefore, it's not going to be kosher. Okay.